My name's Danny Griffiths. I work for the John Lewis Partnership, which is a unique organisation in the UK. We are a retailer, which we class ourselves as a retailer of distinction, founded in the mid-20s, 1925 to 1928, by John Speed and Lewis, who wanted to produce something new in the model of retail and industry. Everyone in the partnership is classed as a partner, and we're all partners in the business, and the profit at the end of the year is shared out amongst everyone. Our customers, partners and profit are all as important as each other, which is what makes us a market leader in the world of retail in the UK. Last year we turned over across the John Lewis and Waitrose division around £9.5 billion, of which 3.8 billion was in the John Lewis sector, which is everything from clothing up to sort of large furniture. One of the things that puts us ahead of the market in retail, which has meant we've had 4 years growth in quite a challenging circumstances and 4 years gain of market share, is the fact that we have two philosophies. One is that the customer is always right and always comes first, and the other is that we're never knowingly undersold. It's a fairly archaic term from the 20s, but basically what it means is if there's a like-for-like price in the retail market on the high street, we will match that with any of our competitors. Obviously there's some challenges online which are slightly different, but we still differentiate ourselves mainly through service. And one of the things we've actually introduced now is a one-stop shop for customers where they can literally just buy anything, whether it's online or in-store or via telesales, and have the services that are required added to those goods, so they can pick everything up that they need for their television, to have it installed on the wall and to have all the wires attached, etc., etc. Or if they buy a gas cooker, it can all be installed at a time that they choose and within a time slot that they choose as well, which has been a major advantage for us against our competitors. On our journey to working out what we would offer as part of our proposition, we listened to the two, what I call key areas, which was the customers with exit surveys that we carried out using third parties about what customers would like to see in delivery, but also where you actually really pick it up at the cutting edge, which is the shop assistants that were actually doing the face-to-face sales with our customers, and hearing where customers were a little bit disappointed, where the offer was maybe not up to what they expected from John Lewis, i.e. where we may have in the past used fixed days to deliver a particular area, where we didn't maybe offer installation of particular products. All these things were continually fed back. One of the big fears around giving the whatever we can to the customers kind of proposition was the fact of what will it cost. It was quite a big unknown, because for an in-house fleet to be doing the complex assortment we were looking at, which was from going basic two-man deliveries right the way through, as I said, to doing installs of lighting in customers' houses, installs of TVs, having people that were electrically trained, having people that were gas fitting trained. The fear was that we would end up with a much bigger wander in mileage, which would drive in petrol costs. There was the fear that the actual costs of providing the services was outweigh the benefit of providing the services. So we had to do a lot of analysis on what we could do to control those routes and the wander of the routes for the mileage, but also what we could do to look at price points of what we charge the customer. We looked at scoring delivery slots so that customers that chose slots that were within close proximity of another delivery that was already out on that day would be given the warning that it was a green delivery, it was in an area that was going to actually cause less mileage, which was beneficial for us as a company, obviously, but it was also beneficial to the environment because it cut down carbon emissions massively by actually being able to group deliveries together without having that big wander. As I say, we achieved that by using the customer-facing interface as a grid with various coloured vans. So if the van was light green, they knew it was an eco delivery. If it was black, they knew they could have the delivery, but they knew it wasn't as good for the environment as it should be. If it was just too far away, it was greyed out, as we would expect, and not be seen. But we also had the benefit of a blue delivery as well, because we did find that there were customers that weren't aware that they had a delivery coming already that maybe someone else in the family had purchased that was going to the same address. So we also used that within that grid to actually highlight to a customer, you've got a delivery going out on next Tuesday, for example, as well, so maybe you want to add it to that. All of these things drove down cost. They drove down the average miles per drop from what we were doing pre-offering all the services in the time slots, from around 7.5 miles per drop to around 6.5 miles per drop, which was something we really didn't expect. We thought that the mileage wander would be increased significantly by offering any day that the customer wanted and any time slot. So the whole process originally was started by Dino Rokos, who's now our Director of Distribution. He had the vision and saw what we needed to do to bring distribution to the forefront of a customer delivery proposition. Something that by the sort of late 90s, early 2000s was a much neglected part of the industry. People always tended to think of what was in the shop window and what was in the shop front and worry about how you get it to the customer and what the customer experience is when it's being delivered as a sort of last thought, if you like. With omni-channel and with the fact that a lot of our customers may be shopping online and never actually experience one of our stores, it was very quickly realised that to get our customer delivery experience as good as our shops was key. Andy Street, who looks after the John Lewis division, and Dino have been aggressive in pushing that forward and making sure that distribution become the market leading choice for John Lewis customers, if you like, in the sense of they can open their front door and have the same experience with two drivers delivering their washing machine, installing as they would as if they were standing at the till talking to one of the partners. The omni-channel vision is something that we brought together with this project, where we have the online piece tied in very closely now with our store piece. A significant milestone was last year, £1 billion of the £3.8 billion that we took within our industry was online sales. Generally though, what we really wanted and what was key for us was that the people at the shop front, the people that were on the internet shopping, the people using telesales, and also the partners at the other end of the business, the sharp end actually doing the deliveries, didn't see a huge significant change in what they had to do. In fact, what our real key aim was to make it simpler so that they could carry out a much more complicated function, but with a lot less clicks and a lot less effort. One of the big changes that we did embrace was the fact that we could work closely with our buying teams to enable promotions at times where maybe sales weren't as aggressive as they normally are during peak periods. We've had quite a good close collaboration with the buying teams, with the retail teams, to actually ensure that we actually get the best out of our customer delivery operation, knowing full well that when we're in peak and when we're under pressure, we can push, if you like, certain promotions away because we know that that would be detrimental to the general customer experience, but know that also during times of slack we can bring in promotions, we can actually offer some of the services for free, which gives the customer an enhanced experience and maybe guides people towards buying things during what would generally be classed as a slow time in the retail industry. When you're working on any kind of model and you haven't got any kind of intelligence working behind the booking of deliveries, for example, you have to work within a very tight, rigid frame. The problem with tight, rigid frames is you form patterns, you end up with peaks and troughs that can be peaks and troughs not over the year but within the week, and you also end up with the inability to flex. The great thing about the model we've currently got is the fact that we can react to the market, we can react to the buyers and the retailers and actually change our proposition within a week at the most, whereas previously to that it could take up to 2 to 3 months to put systems changes through to what we were actually showing front end. The problem with services was it was a bit of a dark area for us because we hadn't done the assortment of services that we planned to do, and we didn't really have any way of measuring against historic because we didn't provide those in the past. One of the fears, I suppose, that come around is when you try and compare things as basic a measurement in two-man delivery as van fill, it's very hard to sort of try and tie a van fill that was previously 17 to a van fill that's now 9 as being successful without being able to measure the difference in the service time allocated to each job. So our vans may not have been product heavy, but they were very time heavy now. To match that, we then had to look at how we measured the unit cost of that time, how that time then equated back to a service to make sure that what we were charging for the service covered our costs and meant that we didn't actually end up with a loss when we were providing those services. So one of the big complexities for us was the fact that we had a massive range within our fleet of capability. So at the lower end of the scale, we would have vehicles that could only do the basic drop, two-man deliveries, deliver to the customer, collect old goods. At the top end, we had vehicles that could do everything from lighting, washing machine installs, TV installs, everything to setting up a home PC. The issue we had around that was to work out how we could best show that a van that maybe had 15 jobs was as productive as a van that had 1 job, and how we could best cost that to the point where we actually made the revenue from those services to maximise the cost efficiency of our vehicle scheduling. So when we actually embarked on the project, the key for us, the first major key, was to actually enable services. It was something we knew we had to do that we weren't currently doing at all in our fleet and that a lot of our competitors were way behind on. We did conferences, we looked at even overseas trade and what was happening out there, and we realised it was a real niche in the market that we needed to fill. When we actually introduced these services, one of the benefits we thought we'd get would be enhanced revenue from the service revenue. We could cover our costs, but we also felt that there was a big driver for attachment rate in sales. We knew that we could improve our sales by adding the services where customers were frustrated about having to find someone else or a third party to go and add those services. We realised that very quickly. One of our fears as well was the fact of, as I said earlier, was there was going to be an inefficiency in providing these, which we didn't actually find, which was a surprise for us. So that was a surprise benefit, if you like, the fact that we actually improved our efficiency as well as improving our proposition. The throughput that we've had has increased massively. So our unit throughput is up year on year. The amount of product we're actually moving is up year on year. And we know that we've had big attachment rate sales in specific areas where we've attached a service. So an example would be gas cookers have grown their sales a lot larger than washing machines and fridges, purely because of the service attachment. So one of the things as well that we did was we looked at premium delivery windows. A lot of customers can be cash wealthy and time poor, and that's one area where you have a scale where you can actually offer a real low-end customer delivery proposition here, where we basically tell the customer when we're going to deliver, or you can have a real high-end costly customer delivery proposition at this end where everything's about service. John Lewis likes to sit itself at the top end of that scale. So one of the things we wanted to give our customers was complete choice. We didn't want fixed choice based on the postcode you lived in, so the fact that you lived in a particular area that wasn't maybe central city meant you only got 2 days a week. We didn't want customers to be offered a morning or afternoon. We wanted the customer at point of sale to be able to choose a 2, 4 or 7 hour slot of their choice on the day of their choice. What we did find was that the customer experience was quite strange on some of the analysis we did. The presumption is always that the customer will take the first delivery slot offered. So if a customer goes in and makes a purchase on a Sunday and Wednesday's available, they will always have the Wednesday as the earliest maybe slot, or if we're offering next day delivery, they would choose next day delivery. What we found by offering the 2 hour slots, the 4 hour slots, the 7 hour slots, any day that they wanted, AM or PM, was that the customer pattern changed significantly. We would see customers waiting up to 8 days to have the day and slot of their choice. So if it was a Saturday slot, for example, they may wait 8 days to actually get a Saturday morning between 7 and 9 because that was their preference. But that was only something that became evidence once we actually made that choice available to the customer. We then looked at the revenue points we needed to charge because we expected there to be a loss in efficiency by, if you like, providing a taxi service compared to a bus service where we were driving where the customers wanted us to go when they wanted us to be there, not the other way around. And the great thing about the fact that we've parameterised the routing system to the point where we actually didn't notice any, if you like, decrease in our efficiency. In fact, we've seen an improvement in our efficiency with the routing and with the demographic and the drops per mile. So that was an actual benefit that we've seen, and a soft benefit. And our take up of 2 hour time slots and 4 hour time slots, which are our premium chargeable slots, has been fairly constant around the 18 to 25% over the year and a half that we've been running on a full rollout. So the key for any retailer looking at this is you have to have a real-time reservation scheduling system, something that can actually do all the logistical checks for you at the point of sale and turn it around quickly within 1 to 2 seconds and give the customer an answer at the point of sale to the question that they've asked, which is, can you deliver my washing machine? Can you deliver it to my postcode? Can you deliver it on the time that I've chosen? And can you add these services to it? That is key. You can't do that decision making after the event. And to be honest, you could actually take the model that we've got within retail, which is i.e. washing machines for delivery, washing machines for delivery and installation, washing machine for delivery and installation with a bed and your lights installed. And you could transfer that to many of the industries that need to do deliveries. The building industry, for an example, would be a good one, where you may have flatbed trucks, and on those flatbed trucks you need to have certain products of certain weight or certain products that need a particular engineer to be able to deliver them and install them. It's something that's a transferable skill and a transferable model. It's not something that's exclusive to retail, and that's what makes it so malleable, if you like, and so able to be adjusted to fit everything we need to do to carry on with our market leading proposition.